All right, let's do this thing. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of the Uber Farmer Cigar. Unfortunately, Garage Talks, probably the last fire of the season. Why are we in the garage? Well, one, it's windy as hell and looks like it's going to rain. And two, we have an esteemed guest. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm back out in the garage with my wife again. Celebrating the last few days of EMS week. Coming to a close. This one will actually post probably after EMS week due to a flub up on my part with posting. None of the 45 subscribers I have mentioned that I posted the same video twice this week, so quite depressing.
I actually didn't notice it was the same picture twice. But...
Well, and it got more likes the second video, so I don't know what to do with that. That's just kind of weird. Anyhow, let's get into this.
Because they were like, maybe if we like this,
we
he'll
like
like
it, he'll...
too much.
Yeah, right. What are we smoking? What are we drinking tonight? I call it the Black Dahlia, but it's the Dama Velada. Velada?
Velada, yeah.
Velada. Dama Velada. I mean, it doesn't even look like the Black Dahlia. The sides coming up the cheeks or at the corner of the mouth. It's very good. Very dark cigar. For the beer, a breakfast stout from Founders. I should have brought out the Founders cheese dip.
The beer dip,
The
yeah.
beer dip, yeah.
You did notice
Could've
this
had
from
'em.
Founders. I noticed it was from
Of course I
Founders.
noticed it was from
And I was like,
Founders.
oh, wow, that's kind of ironic.
So,
That's interesting.
tonight, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I did notice this from Founders, because you guys also got me the hot sauce from Founders that I really like.
But that was completely accidental.
Yeah, that was. You didn't even know that. I'm not like a huge fan, it's like I seek
Well, I
Founders
knew
out.
it was Founders, but I didn't, like, put A and B together. That Founders was Founders. Like, I knew it was called, like, the company was Founders, but I didn't connect that it was Founders.
Yeah, which is cool. I get that. So tonight, we'll only give a little bit of a farm update because we kind of promised a number of videos back we were going to do a review.
Time out.
Time out.
We've got a... Okay,
Oh,
so
what
I
are you
actually brought my
drinking?
bottle.
Oh, yes.
So I'm actually drinking something I'm excited about, so...
This is
I
true.
don't know if this is showing. So,
Yeah, it's showing.
so I got, well, actually for Mother's
Yeah,
Day, I was
That
given
didn't help at all.
a Soda Stream. So
Soda
I
Stream.
have a new Soda Stream, and so I don't like the taste of water. It kind of tastes gross to me. It always tastes a little bit like dirt, or like it's, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but it always tastes gross to me, and it's hard for me to drink plain water.
And it doesn't matter if it's city, well,
yeah, it doesn't
artesian.
matter.
We have one of the best water sources in the UP because it's a natural limestone artesian well.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. When we've done like the filters under the sink, we've done whole house filters. It always still tastes bad to me. So I really, really struggle to get enough water. And I started drinking bubbly, but bubblies get pretty expensive. Like they're an 8-pack and they cost more than a 12-pack a pop usually. So and I have a bad habit of opening it, drinking half of it really fast and setting it down while I get busy with other things, and then I lose it. So it gets wasted. So for Mother's Day, Uber Farmer and the kids
and your husband
got me a Soda Stream. So I've been really enjoying it, and sometimes I add flavors, sometimes I just add the spritzing,
Spritzers.
Sometimes I add, like this time I have a little like grenadine, so that's why my drink is pink tonight, just to give it a little sweetness. But I love it actually, so
yeah.
it is my new thing.
That was a total last minute, like walking in the store. I was with the kids trying to find. I don't think maybe I wasn't with the kids.
I don't think so.
No, I think I was. It was. I dropped some kids off at class, and I was in the store. I wanted one last gift, and the kids sent me on a fool's errand trying to find all sorts of weird stuff. I just started walking by home departments because we were looking to get you a steamer, which I did actually get you a steamer for steaming veggies. And there sat, I saw the flavors for bubbly next to the soda streamer, and I kind of did some quick math in my head how much it cost to for the CO2 and And then when math kind of failed me, I just went ahead and bought it anyway. So I figured we'd save a buck or two.
I think we might break even, but I do think that it's probably better and has more uses.
Well, it's more customizable.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck with, if we accidentally get you like the grape, lemon, lime, peanut butter flavor, whatever bubbly it was.
Peach or whatever.
Yeah. And then the kids enjoy it too. We got a cola one, so they can have their cola from time to time.
Yes.
And we kind of tone down the sweetness. So yes, that is a good gift. I'm sorry I didn't introduce your drink. I'm not used to.
Normally I don't have any.
Do you have a cigar? Do you want to?
I don't.
Open a cigar real quick.
Right. Yeah. Right. I am adamant about not smoking, so.
This one will knock you off your feet too.
I'm pretty sure a plain cigarette would knock me off my feet since I've.
It's from American Viking though. It's an American cigar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Viking isn't very American. Just
I know, right?
saying.
So anyway, we'll turn off the light. The light's been hurting my wife's eyes. We're gonna turn it off for her sake. And it's kind of symbolic for the topic actually tonight on the 3-part series. We are gonna be talking about EMS gets darkest. Talk about the darkest parts of EMS. I did the one video that posted on Saturday about EMS gets dark, talking about policies and procedures and protocol and dealing with the state and politics. Then we talked about darker, talking about dealing with death, dealing with your own death, dealing with some of the stressors of being gone and whatnot. And tonight we're going full bore, the darkest of the dark, the really reasons not to get into EMS. to kind of work you up to this point, because it's a hard profession to get into. But before we get into that depressing stuff, we do have to give a little bit of an update on the freeze dryer.
Well,
we're 20 batches in. We're the 20th batch.
21.
I think this is the 20th batch is upstairs right now, so we're gonna have to change out the oil.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't regret it, so that's good.
Good. We have over 80 packets of freeze-dried food chilling in our storage. What's been your favorite food so far?
I really love freeze-dried bananas,
Right.
which sounds dumb. I like the bananas. We haven't tried the yogurt powder really, but
Not
I like
mixing
the
in
yogurt
stuff, but we
dots.
ate the dots.
Um,
I really want to try straight yogurt. We made yogurt cheese where you extract some of the whey out to make it thicker. But I think that might not have actually ever been done.
maybe not, but I think we would have had to freeze it longer before. But it was the yogurt bites are really tasty. I've been kind of nibbling on those once in a while. It does take a little while to get used to the texture, especially if it sticks to your teeth of certain items.
Yep. The taco meat's my favorite so far. That one.
The taco meat
delicious.
rehydrated very, very well, but it was almost like it became soft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to describe it, but it
The meat
became soft. And it's funny because
very melt in your mouth.
a couple of the kids were like, it's almost like getting it straight from Taco Bell.
Yep.
Like they compared it to Taco Bell's.
Not a
taco
sponsored
meat.
video, by the way.
No, not sponsored, but that's what they compared it to, which is funny because it's been, we eat at Taco Bell, once a year? No.
Now, yeah.
We hardly
used to
eat
be.
there.
That used to be our.
That used to be our go-to because it's
go-to.
cheap for a big family.
It's cheap, and the places where we used to eat up in Marquette were very family friendly. They were very good with big families.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying the freeze dryer. Although the credit card bill that it's on came in, and now that hurt. That hurt.
Hurt a little bit. I could tell you felt some tension today when that came in. But yeah, so I'm liking it. I don't regret it. I still would 100% tell anybody though that a freeze dryer and a dehydrator are still both worth it.
Still both very good purchases. Well, it's just like we're not going to stop canning stuff. There's still some meals that are just better canned, doing stews and jams and jellies, and it's just better squishy that way. And although I did find out depressingly, this is a factoid I did not know. I was at our Tractor Supply, talked to the guy. They got another shipment of just the small units in, which I'm glad we got the medium. That seems to be like a perfect size for us. And just kind of joke with the guy and whatnot. I was like, oh, you got some? He's like, oh, yes, it's a popular time for them. I was like, really? He's like, well, let's just say it helps with the harvest. And I'm like, dude, the harvest isn't for like 4 or 5 months. Like my stuff's not even in the ground yet. He's like, no, it's the harvest. I'm like, what the hell are you talking?
That's where they got their name.
Right, harvest, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, and then someone else behind him was like, the greener harvest. Like, oh my God, is it weed? Like how? Why? I don't get it. And he said that, yeah, when they harvest their little buds, it takes them, I guess, like months to dry out to the point they can sell them, or they pop them in the freeze dryer, and then by the next day they can have their crop off to market. So it's for an efficiency reason.
So it's like the new wave cotton gin. Like it like makes that product like actually more feasible.
Yeah, because you can't. Apparently, the guy gave me a huge lesson. You can't put them in a dehydrator because it heats it up and then it'll burn everything off.
I imagine it would make it like brittle.
Probably, yeah. The freeze dryer. That's actually the best. I didn't know this. That's the best way to prepare your greener harvest, as the guy said. So.
Huh. Interesting.
It was interesting. Well, let's get dark. Let's get dark with it. So, I'll let you start off. I know where I'm going with this.
No,
the darkest.
Okay, the darkest.
The darkest. We did talk about this one a little bit this morning. That's actually how this became. This was going to be just another solo video. I started talking, and my wife actually had some darkest parts of EMS that I didn't even consider. I guess I should start with mine. I should start with mine.
Start with yours.
So, heavy Drake. The darkest has to be the mental change that you go through in EMS. And it really is, it's a mindset that you have to face where you're okay with the idea of death and dying. It doesn't bother you. I remember I had someone who was telling me a story. They had a near-death experience with carbon monoxide. And they were telling me, obviously they lived because they're telling me the story about how they had this heralding experience, and they found out like too late that it was, and it was lucky the hospital caught it, and they were trying to pull on my heartstrings, and I was all like, well, that sucks. Glad you're okay with that. That sucks. That's not a fun day. And they were just horrified. How can you say that? Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I could have died. Like, well, but you didn't. So good on you, the doctor and the ambulance driver and the medic and the EMT, and they were able to treat you, but it just becomes kind of numb to a lot of that. Because again, I really, when I'm working full time, I have to be. I can't get amped up over every little thing, but it does bleed into my personal life a lot. There's just also the idea of whenever the phone rings, I have to answer it. There's the feeling that I should put patients ahead of my family, which we've talked about. We've hinted at a few times in other videos. That was a problem where I'd put my career, the patients, other people's well-being and happiness above and beyond my family's, and I couldn't say no to a lot of transfers. So it's a mindset. It's a very dark mindset. I mean, it's not uncommon to talk about death, dying, injuries. So common, actually, that even my children, like, they're kind of shocked when they, people are getting grossed out at a first aid class. They're like, oh yeah, my dad told me about this. Yeah, it's compartment syndrome. That's nasty. And
it's a spectrum trauma.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it really is that mindset, and it's very dark because you rationalize a lot. The running shtick is in medicine. It's prima non nocere, which means first do no harm, but in EMS it's prima non mortis. First, don't let them die. Because there are times when we have to cause a significant amount of pain to get someone out of a car, get them out of a house, to whatever, especially if doctors who won't give pain meds. You have people, we've got to cause them quite a bit of pain. So you have to be used to people hollering and screaming and yelling and blood curdling screams. So, now when your daughter does it because, she cut her hand on a veggie slicer, you're, you're like, oh, okay, it's fine. Just, you'll be all right. Walk it off. So how about you, dear? What's the darkest part?
Well, see, that's a tough one because I'm not in EMS. So, from a person looking into some, like, the provider's situation, I would say, like, if you live and work in the same community, then the guilt that you might have treating patients that don't make it, and that feeling of, did I screw up? Did I do something wrong? Or was this just their time? And I think that that's part of where it comes in, where you get like desensitized to death, because you either have to believe that it's just somebody's time,
Yep.
or you're going to beat yourself senseless that you screwed up or you didn't do all you could. And I think that that is probably pretty traumatizing when it gets to treating, close family and
family,
close friends.
And I've always said it's the volunteers who my heart goes out to, because that is, you don't volunteer in someone else's community, you volunteer in your own community, your own neighborhoods.
Which is an entirely different commitment level. So if you get paid for working, even if it's in your own community, it's kind of different than if you're volunteering to work in your
you're doing
community.
it for free.
Because you have a different mindset for it. Like your purpose, if you get paid, then you're still doing this as a job. You're still working for it. But if you're volunteering in your community, this isn't a job to get paid for usually. It's because not only do you want to make a difference so much.
Yeah. But it is. It's a tricky thing when you have, I've treated many family members, extended family members. I've treated friends. I've treated colleagues, and I think I talked about this. No, I did. There was actually a story. They want to do a story collection. About people who have been in stressful situations, and I explained that one of the hardest in my story. I kind of wrote up that one of the hardest parts about being a medic is you have to make a choice. Are you going to be the husband? Are you going to be the friend? Are you going to be the brother or sister or brother-in-law? What are you going to be? Either you can be the medic who's going to care for them, and then you cannot show much emotion. You need to shut yourself off, or you have to be the fall on the ground. Oh my God, it's all going down. I'm going to freak out. Family member or friend or father or whatever it is, and that sucks. Because there has been a lot of times I much would have preferred to have been, the bumbling father who yells incoherently and, acts like I've had some patients act, where you need to do something. Okay, well, you need to get out of my way. I know I told the story about the father we ran into. Well, the call we had where a kid was hit and run on a bike, and the guy who was driving down the road saw someone in the ditch, so he went to go treat him. It turned out to be his son who got hit and run. And we get there, we show up, my partner goes to get some equipment, and the guy grabs us, "You got to do something." He says, "We are," and the dad cocked back and punched him across the jaw, and caused a whole bunch of problems. But I've been in that situation. I want to be that person. I want to be the person who cold cocks the EMT, because I'm just so emotional and so amped up on adrenaline, and but I can't. I got to be the heartless, hardened, curmudgeony, salty paramedic. So that's rough. That is very dark part of EMS. What other dark parts of EMS have you seen, or from your side? What's been your experience with me being on the rig, and it's horrifying to see,
Something horrifying to see.
or have to deal with, or
Well, neighbors thinking that just because you're in EMS means I know something about it.
Right.
Because like I had a neighbor come running over holding her kid's foot in a towel, because he had dropped a dresser drawer on his foot, I believe.
I thought it was glass. Was it a dresser
No, it was
drawer?
a dresser drawer, but it was like a dresser from like the 60s or 70s. So it had the metal track, and it like partially sliced one of his toes or two of his toes off. And so it like he's bleeding profusely everywhere. And this is a little kid. I think he was only 2 or 3 at the time.
Maybe 3 or 4.
Maybe he was even younger. Maybe he wasn't even a year old yet. Because I remember her carrying him.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, Trevor's not home. And she's like, well, you know this stuff because of his job. And I said your name again. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't know this stuff. This is not my thing. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel compelled to do something. So, of course, there's always some kind of medical kit somewhere in our home. So, and unfortunately, I guess at the time I knew where it was. So I went and I grabbed it, and I get out the gauze, and I get out all this other stuff. And I'm looking at this kid's foot, and like there's pieces kind of hanging off, and I know that it's not right. And I'm like, you need to take this child to the hospital or to the urgent care or to the ER. You need to get this kid seen. But and I think almost anybody who's ever been alone watching children and had one get hurt can experience and appreciate, like, you only have a couple of choices. Like, either you drive with this child on your lap while you're trying to squeeze a towel over their foot, you stabilize them as best you can, put them in their car seat and transport them, which is probably the better option, or you call an ambulance. So there's really, like, it's not an easy thing to do. And I can really feel that discomfort, that inner turmoil.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wrap the kid's foot as best I can because I'm not trained to wrap anything, let alone like little bitty toes. And I, again, encourage her to get the kid to the hospital. I think I gave her an ice pack and I put an ice pack on it or something. Anyway, whatever I did must have been inspired somehow because she got the kid to the hospital and they were able to, like, stitch him back up.
Fix his
And
toes.
he actually didn't lose any toes. And whoever, like, unwrapped him, as I actually said, like, that was an amazing
Yeah, good job. Right?
amazing job. And I was like, oh wow, because like that, it's not that I don't pay attention to what I hear and what I see, but it's not like I've ever practiced
Yeah, right,
most of
yeah,
it,
right.
so I don't
Exactly.
feel experienced or knowledgeable in it because it's not like I'm actually trained in it. I just kind of see things as I go.
And wasn't it Swedish Compass had that too? Like, someone got hurt. She was somewhere and they were like, well, your dad's an EMT. What do you do? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone
yeah.
got sick or
Yeah, I don't know.
something happened. I can't remember the full story, but she was like, everyone's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know. Call him. Call my dad.
Right. So yeah, so the idea that other people just assume that you automatically know what to do if you're somehow
Or you're okay
connected.
with it.
Or you're
'Cause-
okay with
yeah,
it.
'cause
Yeah, I've
it's-
got like this blood everywhere, and I'm like, ugh. Like, I'm not into blood. Like, I am not squeamish about blood. Like, it doesn't make me like feel dizzy or lightheaded or anything like that. But I don't want to see it,
Right, you don't
especially
wanna-
somebody else's blood. Like, if it's
Check it out.
mine, I'm all right. If it's one of the kids, I don't like seeing the kids bleed.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not like uncomfortable with it. So, but yeah. So I would say that that's kind of a dark like assumption that people make.
Well, you kind of shocked me this morning.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, we were kind of talking about this and whatnot, and it kind of goes to that mindset. Like, you mentioned something that like that should just that disturb the hell out of someone, and I was like, wow, 20 years that never really like phased me until today.
What did I say?
You
I
were-
don't. I don't remember.
You don't remember?
It must
It's
have
what
been-
it's what precipitated you being invited here was that that dark epiphany that, oh my God, there's something I should be. Like I was going to talk about the medic mindset because it's something that's horrifying. It's even more horrifying me being an instructor because my job is to take a sweet innocent person who, would cry at someone dying or would get,
and
then-
harden them enough.
and turn them into this hardened badass who like will not respond how a human being should. I mean, I've been accused of being inhuman, of like that's not how you respond. How dare you? There was one person who they had a family member who was dying, and I was talking to him and whatnot because again I deal with death all the time. It doesn't bother me. I have a lot of good insights, a lot of stories, a lot of religious stuff I can relay in all the years of dealing with it. And they're like, I wish there was a way I could hurry this process up. And for a second I was like, well, I can help you. I can give you pointers. Like, but no, what you were talking about it, and you're like, wow, the darkest thing I could think of is that you will literally be the last person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and explain this little fact. I'm gonna throw a log here on the fire, get kind of weird burn here.
Okay, so I don't know exactly how I worded it this morning, but like one of the darkest things I can think of about this job is that you can literally and you might not even realize it at the time, but you could be the last person like your patient sees, like the last person they ever have near them, the last person who ever touches them in every way,
the last person to hear their last words,
the last voice they personally hear, the last, and that's that kind of might haunt you,
And it's weird because I've been there. I've heard many last words, last prayers. People's last moments. I really have been the person who was there when everything stopped. And it's dark as hell. When you, like you said that, oh my God, yeah, that is super dark. That destroys some people. To be around someone, it doesn't have to be someone you like or love or just.
Well, it's just somebody's most vulnerable, weakest
moment and
last moment.
To boot, it's. I don't like to use the word failure when someone dies because it is. I firmly believe that when someone's their time to go, it's their time to go. But you failed. As a medic, my job, prima non mortis, to keep them alive. No, that didn't pan out that way. And it was weird. You said that. I was like, oh my God, you're right. That is that's dark. That is really dark. And I don't know what's darker, the fact that I have to do it or the fact that it didn't dawn on me until you mentioned 20 years that
it never clicked that you're there at the...
I've been at the death of... Maybe it's because that usually I am still... the mantra is no one dies in the rig.
You're still actively working.
You're still doing CPR, you're still pushing drugs, you're still troubleshooting and trying to, figure out how to save them, quote unquote. You're working your damnedest. There's been only a handful who there were hospice patients who I went there to sit with and they died and because they didn't have family or whatnot.
The hospice nurses must have such a that's a hard job to watch somebody, and then I think that's probably it feels like an obligation to be there, but at the same time it's one of those obligations that probably tears you up a little bit. But
what is weird is I've told family members and friends their last dying words, the last thing they said before they coded and then eventually died in the hospital. I've multiple times I've had, just so you know, your father said, your grandmother said, and some of those kind of chill me a little bit. Thinking I've had the ones tell Joey he's gotta take care of his mom now because I can't. Boom, dead. Died on the spot type stuff. I've had people the one I think I've talked about here is a snowmobile accident where everything looked like it was going fine. And this is back in the day we used to push a bunch of IV fluid into them to jack their blood pressure up. We've since learned that kills people. And it happened to me. I jacked his blood pressure up and he blew a blood vessel in his chest. And he was fine. I turned to go give my radio report, and he was pink and, you know, breathing fine, talking fine. I got his pressure up like we were supposed to back in the day. And like as I'm on the radio giving this report, it's a very nonchalant, just like, yeah, the guy has a, you know, broken arm, 2 broken ribs, they're stable, you know, good lung sounds. And all of a sudden I hear him start to pray, you know, the Hail Mary. I'm like, what the hell? And I poke my head around the bed, and he's pale as a ghost. He's huffing and puffing, can't, you know, form sentences. And like, it was like, okay, well, it's time to work. Now we gotta go push more fluid, which was the wrong answer back then, but we didn't know any better. That was what we were trying to do. But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. I know exactly what a lot of people, the last thing they did. But it is, that should be a lot darker, but it's just that damn mindset. That's how I have to train people. I have to train
But
them.
I don't think it's just the mindset. I think at the time you're always 3 steps ahead. So you're also really busy at that precise moment.
You are. You're very
You know,
busy.
Like, your goal isn't to hear what their last words are. Your goal is to make sure it's not their last words. So I think maybe the importance of going through the process of what you need to do is maybe takes precedence over emotion.
It is. I know we've talked about this. One of the things, like, when I'm on the rig, I do have to lock my emotions up. I mean, they get stored away because I can't be that loving, caring, want to hug you and kiss you individual, and also then be the medic who has to make calm, rational decisions without outside distractors. So, yeah, the only time that calls have really messed me up is when I have been, like, had that moment to actually let my emotions come out. That was actually one of the ambulance accidents. I've talked about this one where I was elated. I was so happy. And I actually was the guy who had a pulse. He was breathing. He was fighting the tube. We had him tubed. And I kind of allowed myself, it was stupidity, but I sat back and I was holding his pulse. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I was actually living in the moment. I let my emotions, you know, kind of loose. I let down some of my shields, and then we got hit by a car. And, you know, went from this is really the precipice of an emotional peak, and then you go to the absolute parapet of the spikes and needles and thorns, because the guy ended up then dying, and I almost died, and my partner almost died, and you know, so it's really hard to. I tried to lock my emotions back up, but you know, now you're messed up in more ways than a goldfish in a blender.
That's a terrible, terrible image.
Right?
In case you were wondering, that's a disturbing image for me. Let's not go there again.
There's that dark humor again, which I made a whole video about dark humor and why we use it and why most people, yes. The mantra is dark humor is like food, not everyone gets it, so.
Well, and unfortunately it does rub off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like, so there are a couple of different kinds of people, though, that, like, they use humor, and they don't have to be in medicine, they don't have to be in life or death situations. They use humor to kind of deal with sadness, or deal with trauma, or deal with tragedy.
Shield, or what do they call it, a rediversion, or
I don't even know anymore. There's all different terms for it. So there are people who use humor, and honestly, it does kind of rub off. I notice that I tend to use humor more in darker situations sometimes, just to tend.
Well, even our children every now and then we use some dark humor. It's like, what did you just say?
Did you really just go there?
Did you really just go there?
Yeah, so I mean, I do think that there is just, some people just do that to deal with stress and trauma.
It's not
I don't
exclusive to the EMS.
Yeah, field. I don't think EMS or medicine has like a monopoly on that concept. But did it turn off?
Nope. We may want to go tuck the kids in here, but we can finish this last few thoughts.
So I don't think dark humor is necessarily just like, I don't think the medical field has a, you know, this is ours.
We don't have a monopoly on it by any means. We do favor it for sure.
Because, well, and I remember, like, when I was in the hospital, I remember making a joke to the doctor, and she's like, wow, you're making jokes. You must be doing
You
okay.
must be doing better. Yeah, you're doing better
You
than we
must be doing
thought.
okay. And I don't think I actually was doing okay.
No, you were pretty messed. I mean, you were better than many of us thought. But yeah, you were.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't.
to make a joke, to crack a joke, it is a good sign. I mean, it's
Yeah.
if that's it. We always say if someone's worried about their car, if they say, "Oh God, how's my car? How's my car?" Well, they're gonna live. If they're more worried about their car than they are their life. It's the ones who say, am I gonna make it? Oh God, all right, well, yeah.
Well, admittedly, I don't think that's 100% accurate because we got into this discussion before, and I can't remember who we were talking with or who. Maybe I was just talking to them, and they're like, "Well, if you can ask how the baby is doing, then you must be fine." And I'm like, I don't think that's accurate because as a parent, like a mom or a dad, I think that if you're asking how the child is doing, that doesn't necessarily mean you're fine.
That doesn't mean you're fine.
That is an instinct before, like, because you do care about their well-being usually before you care
Well,
about your
that
own.
depends on the person, because some people we're finding are very insensitive to their children. Well, yeah, by and large, if someone.
Yeah, I don't think a parent saying, how is so-and-so is an indicator that they're okay. I think it's an indicator that their brain is still functioning
Yeah,
well
they're
enough to
still-
know that they're concerned about so-and-so. So I don't think that is 100% like, I'm more worried about my car or my kid or my. But.
And the one thing that it's also pretty the darkest, and it's one of the reasons I'm actually thinking about getting out of stuff like EMS education, is my kids getting desensitized to a lot of this. I am 100% honest. I pray to God that none of my kids, I literally pray to God that none of my kids become public servants, especially, paramedics and EMTs. It's a hard life. It's rewarding in its own regards, but, it's not something I wish upon my children because it is.
Oh, it's a horrible, horrible lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a horrible lifestyle.
The schedule alone is hard.
Mm-hmm.
The schedule, but add on because you can have a third shift job and it's hard on a family. But have a terrible schedule, combine that with emotionally traumatizing or challenging situations.
Well, throw in the kids don't have a trampoline. They wanted a trampoline. Our oldest, since he was 3, has wanted a trampoline. But I've treated so many broken bones, paralyzed children, closed head injuries. I mean, I treated one lady. She was older. When she was in her 20s, I'm pretty sure she's dead. She had a massive brain bleed from jumping on a trampoline, and she yeeted herself off and cated on the concrete. That I don't think our kids could ever have a trampoline.
Well, they could. You couldn't handle it.
I couldn't handle it. It's like the pool and you. So
Yeah, but I face my fear every
Right.
summer. Just saying.
Well, and it is. It's like we had the kids come for a class. They were doing assessments, and we had mock injuries on the kids, and they've done this multiple times. It's to the point where the kids openly mock and correct students. You're doing this all wrong. And one of my students actually came up to me and he said, this was the most demoralizing training. He's like, it was good, but it was one of the most demoralizing trainings to have I think, what was Swedish Compass, I think was 10.
Probably 10.
Yeah, about 10-ish. To have a 10-year-old, give him critiques that even, because I wasn't the primary instructor for this class, that the primary instructor had never been that harsh to him. Of you're doing this wrong, you're going to kill someone, this is dumb. You're being dumb, you're doing this all wrong. You're going to hurt me now for real. And I couldn't imagine if I was your patient. Because she had heard me say that to people. She knew what was, I'm a very blunt instructor.
In fairness, though, whatever the student was doing was pretty bad because she was sore.
She was in pain, and we actually, I think I pulled the tape because I think they were recorded, and I even told us she wasn't wrong. What you were doing was bad. That was bad technique, bad form. You shouldn't have been doing it. And what he said, he's like, I would much rather have you on your hardest day than your children, your baby children, telling me that I'm inadequate for my dream field.
Well, I mean, it's always hard when a kid drops a truth bomb. It doesn't even matter what it's about. But like a kid drops a truth bomb, and I think it's because it's so startling that it comes from someone so young.
Well, and especially as people are supposed to have been. I mean, they were in the last weeks of their course, and they're supposed to be, well trained professionals. And yeah, he was funny. It was an older gentleman too. He's like, I've never been spoken to like that in my life. And your daughter just dropped it. And
I was told we shouldn't say that is. She's not blunt. She is direct.
She's direct.
She's to the point and direct. She's not blunt.
Direct.
So, because apparently it's bad to be blunt, but it's okay to be direct. I don't know. Anyway, yes, but I don't know if that's a bad thing that they're kind of blunt or direct.
No, not that they're blunt or direct. Don't get me wrong. That they're so accustomed to medicine when I do not want them in the medical field. I mean, I don't. Them
But
being
in
blunt and
fairness,
direct.
I do think that exposure has made most of them not even want to touch it. They have no interest. The idea of being around a pager, none of them are interested in that. All of them think
I don't know.
that's
Wild and Free
ridiculous.
Wolf has said she wants to be.
She wants to be a police officer, and that scares the daylights out of me. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know if that's something she's actually.
Maybe not. I mean, she's 10,
and she's lost a
life
little bit
is-
of interest in
yeah.
it in the last couple of
and
years.
it has. She's found some other fields that are a little more engaging.
She finds interesting. So, but, and I don't like with the current state of affairs and how public opinion is. I wouldn't want her to be a police officer, but I wouldn't tell her.
Well, I mean, I'd be honored and proud that she is, because that's a very noble profession.
I wouldn't not support her, obviously, but it would worry me, of course. So yeah, I think that they're just as much at risk for emotional.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they deal with a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of respect and admiration for police officers. Again, if my daughter became one, I'd be one of the proudest papas there ever was. But
I don't hope that.
Yeah,
hope that for there. I guess I don't want that for her. But if it's what she wants, then it's a bit different.
Yep. Well, we cut this one right about 40 minutes, 42 minutes. We'll put the kids to bed. We'll come back for concluders and.
We should do concluders and then just do another entire video at that point.
Well, then I gotta have a whole nother cigar.
No, you don't.
That's how it works. You gotta start up a new cigar. I took the band off and everything. Why, you have another topic?
You wanted to touch base on the homestead, so I thought
We did. That was the freeze dryer.
I thought you wanted to talk about the does.
No, there's no does. There's no does. There's no goats in this house yet.
Yeah.
So, well, we could just end it here. This was pretty dark and depressing. Any other depressing notes you want to bring up?
You can pause it. We'll put the kids to bed, and I'll think about more depressing.
Well, that was the whole thing, taking that editing pause here. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back when we put the kids to bed. Stay tuned. All right, and we're back. Kids are in bed. Everyone's doing good. Had to mess with all of them. I turned all their lights on and had them off already. So.
Then the next morning they're all like, "Did Dad come in and turn on my light?"
Oh, they were awake. I made sure of that. So, you had a few moments to think of darker stuff. I thought of one as I walked out. But, what else you got?
Oh, I'll let you go first.
Injuries. I haven't talked about injuries. No one walks away from EMS in one piece. The back's been doing better since I've been off the rig. I haven't thrown it my back as much, but I still throw it out. Probably.
You throw it out now doing weird stuff.
Yeah. Well, it always was. I'd lift a 400-pound person, no problems. I'd come home and move a 2x4 for a project, and Dad can't feel his legs anymore. What made me think about is my knee started acting up as I was getting up and walking, and That's from an ambulance accident. I got exposed to chemicals from fires and from responses, and I've been exposed to meningitis, both viral and bacterial. I got exposed to, I got sprayed with AIDS blood, but the doc said its exposure was pretty minimal because it was just on my uniform. So, not to mention the shitty eating habits we have.
Well, and then you expose your family to everything you're exposed to at work. Like even if you leave your uniforms at work,
which I do, which is pretty
you were
rare.
Pretty picky about, actually.
Yeah, I was very picky about that.
But I mean, you can't clean everything off, and sometimes, which I think most people now would appreciate more than they did 5 years ago. The fact that you might come home sick and not know it for days. And by the time you realize that you're sick, everybody's been exposed.
We had the one where it was viral meningitis. No, it was bacterial. It was bacterial meningitis. And like they called me the next day and they're like, "How are you and your family doing?" I'm like, "We're fine." Why? Like, "You were exposed to bacterial meningitis yesterday." I'm like, "It has been over 24 hours. Like, so no one has a headache?" I'm like, "Well, I do now." Because they're like, "Well, you really should have had, the prophylactic antibiotics should have been given to you and your family like 12 hours ago." But if no one's showing symptoms, you dodged a bullet. It's like, what the?
Yeah. So you are actually exposed to a lot of stuff, and like I think the general public wouldn't appreciate that as much until now.
Yeah.
Like now that they've all been exposed to the concepts of, okay, I was exposed 3 days ago, and now I've been with my family, and now they're all sick, or they're at the risk of being sick. So but that was like standard. Like we dealt with that all the time.
I don't remember how many times I'd come home and take a shower and there'd be pieces of glass in my hair from car accidents.
Yeah, like it was a constant. Like, okay, so what happened today? Like, what were you exposed to today? Well, and especially around flu season. Oh my gosh, we caught the flu so many times. And what's ridiculous is, one of the perks, I guess, of homeschooling is that you don't generally get all the cruds. Like,
you don't get a lot of the big.
You don't get a lot of the sicknesses because you're not in a public school setting where you're around multiple kids who have it and pass it along.
But Dad bring it home and share.
Yeah,
share willingly.
You're very generous.
Very generous that way.
So, and the worst part is, like, you'll be sick. When you get sick, it's usually a day. We get sick, I get sick and it's sometimes 2 weeks.
Or a month.
Or a month. And like the kids have this horrible tendency to get sick for 3 days. They start getting better, but then the next one gets sick. And so it's like it will last 3 weeks easily in our house because it's like nobody, like it's pretty rare for all of us to be sick at exactly the same time. So it's like one person is sick for a week and then the next person is sick for a week and then the next person. And so it's like by the time we get through it, the first person usually catches it again because it's mutated by the time they, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think what you unwittingly bring home, sometimes without realizing it and sometimes without, like, sometimes you've been exposed and you even take precautions, but you can't always, like, you can't foresee every potential exposure. So definitely that is dark because that's the risk. Fortunately, our kids have always been really healthy, but I can't imagine,
I'm really careful in the rig, and that's kind of even worse. I mean, I wear a mask during flu season. I get made fun of. I used to make it fun of. Now
people
now it's the other way around. But I mean, that's one of my greatest regrets is I want to call it pre-injured at work, and then the injury would actually show up once I got home, and that was a lot of back injuries where it's. Kids want to go outside and play, and Dad can barely.
Well, and it's not real time at home. I think that is probably the thing that I dislike about EMS the most. So you're gone for 60 hours, and then you're home. But when you come home, the first 12 to 24 hours, all you do is sleep and try to catch up on rest. So. Really, you might as well not even be home. It's a waste of time. We don't really get to spend time with you. And then you recover enough and you're awake, but all you really still want to do is relax now that you're finally awake. So, you know, and so then it's the day before you go back, essentially, that you're finally like there.
Yeah, then it's pre-gaming to get ready for
And,
work.
yeah, and then the moment the phone rings or there's an extra page or drop everything and go, and that like
Resets the clock.
and that resets the clock, and feeling like the family is the second fiddle to whoever, whatever is going on in the ambulance is that's terrible on a family. Like to feel like, oh, okay, that's, you know.
Well, it never dawned on me actually how much like the kids actually got it, because like understood that fact, because when the beer flu hit, I mean there was a huge pull to get back on the rig. I mean we had multiple ambulance agencies calling me to make good money to come run again full time, and it was, I mean, it almost happened. It almost happened twice. I got two really good offers to jump back on the truck, and it was Swedish Compass actually who just broke down. I mean, she was crying and she was begging, and you know, Dad, don't do this, don't do it. I can't take it again. I can't do this again. And which hurt. I mean, that really brought a lot of stuff in perspective, because you know, I always, when I was on the rig full time, I guess I didn't. It was shielded from me, or maybe I shielded it from myself. That
I don't think you realized how hard it was.
Yeah, I don't think I did.
Of us.
I don't think I really did.
I don't. Well, and I don't think you appreciated it because you still had the whole like, but I'm doing this for the right reason.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing it for my community or whatever.
My community and family, and
so I don't think it really hit you how hard that actually was on the rest of us. Like, and I don't fault you for that job choice, but it's not easy on a family at all. And I think there's ways to handle it now, looking back, that would have been better. Like, okay, no, from the start, you're home. You turn off the phone, you turn off the pager, and it doesn't come back on. Like, there's no calling, there's no like going in. It doesn't matter. Which may have made it a little easier on all of us.
it would have done heaps of good on both ends. Not only would I have probably,
but I think you would have resented it at first. I
probably.
think
that
because
would have had to been a realization I had to come to myself. That could not have been something like you sat me down and said, okay.
Yeah, and I think because you would have totally resented me for saying it and feeling that way, and but yeah, no, the kids are, even last night. Like they definitely do not want the whole dad's gone overnight or dad's gone for 3 days or whatever. Which is funny. Like I don't realize how drastically different our schedules and our life have been in the last probably about 6 years for the most part. To the point where the older kids still have like a very clear memory of what it was, but the middle children,
they have no,
like this is like alien for them, and it's not something that they like.
Well, the few times I was gone for the middle children, it was massive, like major disasters. That was like, you could feel the scope of it. You could feel the, oh my God, yeah, this is huge, and Dad's doing big work because they were big disasters. But you know, the older two are like, okay, who got a cough and needs to go to a hospital? You know, who sneezed wrong and now has to go 4 hours.
Well, and they're desensitized to it because it was like, okay, so Dad's transporting somebody because they have an appointment sometime tomorrow, and he's not here for whatever the event was or whatever, whatever they perceive to be more important. And they weren't wrong. Like there were some stupid things
transfers
you went in for, and so they're not entirely wrong. But then at the same time, it really is. It's that one where, okay, I don't care what they're calling for. I don't care what they're calling for. The answer is no. The answer is no. Well, it's a baby who can't breathe. God dang it. Like, I hate you right now. Like, I hate this situation, but fine.
Right.
Like, it really is that. Like, okay. But you get desensitized to it because it's so many stupid calls. And then, like, there is, like,
Well, again,
okay,
that's that.
1 out of every 4 is a true, like, emergent.
Well, not even
like,
that much, but yeah.
like, okay, that really, like, is right now imperative. But then, as a parent, it's like, okay, but what would I want if this was, like, if my child was in the hospital or hurt or
Well, that's
scared?
probably another thing of the EMS, the dark mindset is you do get to a point where, like, I don't care. It's not my kid who's sick. Like, no, you need to be home for birthdays,
Well, it does get that way.
holidays.
Like, you get dark. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand somebody's so sad, yeah, but you've been gone for 72 hours now. We have a birthday, we have da 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 da. We pushed off Christmas for an extra week. We have, it's time. Like, we're done waiting. Like, you need to stop.
Yeah.
And like you do as a spouse, you get desensitized to other people's, like, grandma needs to be transported. Well, you know what? Like, drive grandma down.
Right.
Like, sometimes my family needs stuff too.
It's funny. I kind of look back when you say that. I kind of always think of the Incredibles movie with Frozzo, where he's like, "Where
What?
is my super suit? Like, I put it away. Where'd you put it?
Woman,
Oh no!
the world is in danger. My evening is in danger."
I'm ducking out of this event. I mean, it's sad. I mean, that's supposed to be satirical. That's supposed to be funny. But we've had that conversation of, like, no, you can't go. I have to go. No, you don't. There's a whole roster full of. I've seen the roster. I've seen there's 30 people on there. Yeah, well, it's my turn. It is not. It was your turn last night. It was your turn the night before. It's your turn.
And part
Monday
of that
morning.
was your fault. Like, refusing to back away, refusing to say no, refusing to whatever. Part of that was on you. So,
Yeah.
you can't completely blame the station. Although the station also did push
They did push
too.
quite a bit. I mean, it was really one of the times. I remember just before I left the rig full time. I remember I did turn down a transfer. We had something going on, and, like, the next day I had my employee evaluation, and they were like, "Well, we're just gonna put you don't call in ever, or you don't accept call-ins. You don't take extra shifts." And I was like, "Wait, hold the phone." So actually, we had a book where you see who takes call-ins. I had them pull the book, and yeah, that night before I didn't take one. It was a stat transfer. It was a big deal, but we had something big going on, or some
We had
reason.
a trip we were going.
It was something, and, like, I went through, and it was like 80% of the time when I got called, I accepted. And I was like, I'd love to see your golden child, your poster child of what you think is the perfect employee. Let's compare their numbers, because I knew who it was, and I knew. They're like, well, they live an hour away. I'm like, that shouldn't matter now, should it? Like, just because I live 5 minutes from the station does not mean I have a higher obligation to accept calls. And I think that evaluation, actually, she left it as unwilling to take extra shifts. And so I was like, oh, let's see how many shifts I take from now on. And it didn't last for more than 3-4 months, and then I was back to my accepting them. But yeah, there was I remember a couple guys at the station would have been like, "Oh, you're not? No, you're not available? Nope, not available." Don't
Well,
call me."
and the audacity, because, like, I had been in the hospital, and then the next day I was back in the hospital.
Yeah.
And the manager called you, wanting you to come in. And it was like, I'm back at the hospital. I have just, like,
Yeah.
nearly lost my wife.
Well, no, the worst was that was a week later, and I was still on FMLA.
No, that was the next day.
But
and
the
then
worst
the week
one,
later,
yeah, the
when
week
we were
later.
gone for
Thanksgiving.
because we'd gone through a horrible experience. We were, needed
needed
time. You were
off.
on FMLA. We were supposed to be, and gosh, it was less than a week later, 7 days, because I still wasn't able to walk or
Yep,
stand.
you were
I don't
still
think
very
really.
weak.
And And like, well, are you sure you can't work Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Like the one Thanksgiving in something like 6 years or 8 years you hadn't worked.
8 years, yeah.
And like that was a huge deal. Like,
Yeah.
so you didn't
Well, I let her have it that day. I let the boss have it. And that was not right. This was totally unacceptable. And I told her, I was like, I'm extending my FMLA. I think I extended it another 4 or 5 days at least. I'll let you know when I'm ready. And that's well within my right to let you know when I'm ready, not when you're ready to have me back. And I think I had another bad employee evaluation that week too.
She was not the best boss.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, so I mean, and that was horrific. Like, as a person, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, just somebody recovering from something traumatic, like truly traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And really, we were both recovering from something traumatic.
Yeah.
And so for her to respond that way was just wrong on multiple levels,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for a medical provider. Like, I know that you get desensitized, but that's still wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, that expectation that somebody else always comes before your family, and it's not just your own expectation, but it's also the expectation of everybody you work with, and then that's kind of like, in my mind, that's just ridiculous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but well, I would say that's pretty dark. So.
It's pretty dark. That's dark. That dark quick. All reasons not to renew my license. Let it go, so I'm never back in that position. And
Well, we talked about this before, and I think letting it lapse is kind of silly when if you ever did want it back, it's
yeah,
a
it's
pain.
a nightmare.
So, I don't know if I'd let it lapse, but I don't know that I'd get back on the rig
Back on
either.
the rigs.
So,
Could you imagine though someone having me in class? That'd be hilarious.
what do you mean?
If I did let it lapse and I wanted it back.
You'd be a terrible
Oh,
student.
I'd be a terrible student. It'd be hilarious.
You'd be awful.
It would be.
I would not want to be your teacher. I'll
Nope.
just say that.
No, you would not. But well, I think we got dark enough for one evening. What do you think?
I would say that's pretty
That's
dark.
about our hour of darkness. The darkest episode is a good one to end this 3-part, end the EMS week. We started off all happy-go-lucky, and now we're ending the week dark. And I do only have 10 days of the recording of this video, not when it posts, but the recording of this video. I have 10 days to make up my mind. So we'll see what happens. Have a big party on the 30th. Maybe we'll do another one of these on the 30th or 31st. Maybe do it live. Do a live one.
A live one?
Live one. I got a special beer and cigar even lined up for it. For the 20-year mark. Good times.
You're getting really old.
I am getting old. I'm getting very old. But all right, folks, I think we're going to leave it here. Yeah, if you want to convince someone not to get into EMS, I recommend Darker, and Darkest. Vlogs, podcasts, whatever you want to call them.
Or get into EMS well informed and know what to avoid.
At least know what to avoid, know what you're getting into, because there are pitfalls, and sadly, we train these people into them. Get them in these mindsets and get them in these ideals, and
Oh, totally. I
Yeah.
think it's terrible the way that new EMS providers are trained. That like they have to be they have to respond immediately. Like that's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean I see the benefit because it makes somebody very committed to their job and very committed to saving lives. But at the same time, I think that's what creates burnout so
Oh, yeah.
much faster in the EMS field. Because when you're so committed,
when you're on fire, you're the easiest to burn out.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I think that as wonderful as it is in the fact that it creates this passion for saving lives, I think it destroys people.
I smell a EMS conference class coming up on that one, huh? We should structure a class around that.
I'm not teaching a class at conference right now.
Probably not. But all right, folks, we're gonna end it here. I hope you have a good night, and hope everyone stays safe out there. And we'll see you on the next one.